What's up, guys? Linus Tech Tips, aka LTT, and his whole crew at LMG have been under fire over the past couple of days due to a video being released by gamers Nexus.
We believe LTT or LMG is rushing too much to hit arbitrary and largely self-imposed deadlines.
This pipe bomb-like video would take shots at LTT, not only Linus Sebastian, to be clear, but LMG and its staff as well. Taking shots is probably the wrong terminology, actually, because the Gamer Nexus video wasn't really so much like this salacious thing. It was more an expose about Linus Tech Tips, the channel, and some ethical concerns regarding accuracy and misinformation.
And Linus's own comments recently reinforced that the company is still weighing carefully the impact of spending another half day of work on something to get it right, rather than just shoving it out the door incomplete or potentially wrong.
Now, I think it's fair to say that when it comes to tech YouTubers, to the tech community on YouTube, there's really like two people at the top. It's Linus Tech Tips and Marquise Brownlee. So even though the tech space is more niche on YouTube than, let's say, interrogation room reviews,
you're just a hard-working student trying to pass a bar exam, ain't you? You ain't got a lot of support from your family, do you?
Yes.
You do?
The strategy fails at the first hurdle. Steven immediately shuts down the
You know, I never really realized how weird of a thing that is to watch until I said it out loud. So even though it is more niche than that, Linus does still target a broader, more casual audience. So with that being said, you could make the argument that LTT, Linus Tech Tips, because it plays to this more casual audience, their videos don't have to be as nuanced. They're more entertainment than they are analytical. But as Gamer Nexus lays out, LTT recently invested millions and millions of dollars into Linus Tech Labs, LTT Labs, whatever it's called, a state-of-the-art testing facility to give analytical reviews on the performance of tech products. They've always done reviews in the past, but in more recent times, they've been trying to make a foothold into that market, into that like analytics-driven tech review market. Obviously, a company can make a few mistakes here and there. That's not out of the norm. Companies are run and operated by humans. Humans make mistakes. C'est la vie. But as Gamers Nexus brilliantly displays, it seems like LTT has made a lot of mistakes. Like a lot of mistakes.
Even with its heavily marketed debut of Labs, LMG is still consistently making errors in nearly every single review that they publish. It is okay to make errors. All of us do this in this line of work, but the concern we have is that these types of errors are in nearly every single LTT technical or review type of video.
This isn't like a tiny mistake either, where it could have been chalked up to, you know, like a margin of error on a graph. No, they're releasing graphs for products where I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, a 4090 review where they showed a 300% increase in performance to the 3090 Ti, which makes no sense whatsoever. Like, that is an error with a company as large as Linus Media Group at this point, which they have over 100 employees and they've been evaluated. Admittedly, they admitted themselves being evaluated to over $100 million. Like that seems like an error that they should have caught or had some kind of fail-safe in place to catch. That wasn't the only technical mistake that they had made on graphs, but I'm not going to list everything Gamers Nexus listed. If you want to check out the full list, go check out his video. It was a very well put together piece. I'd highly recommend it. He also illustrates there had been a litany of on-screen corrections in videos as well, meaning that the video had been shot, and during the editing process, one of the editors realized, oh, there was a mistake here. And then instead of spending the time to go back and correct said mistake, they just flash like an on-screen text thing, which you're a smaller YouTube channel, obviously that's fine. But I think when you're working at scale like that on such a large channel, and you also, you know, are propping yourself up as like this trusted source of information in the tech world, a source that people go to if they want to buy tech products. They'll go through you because they trust your reviews and your opinions and your stats and analytics. You know, putting up like an on-screen correction, I don't think it suffices, because even like me, for instance, I'll often have a YouTube video playing that I'm listening to while I'm cooking or doing some other kind of task, and I'm not going to see like an on-screen correction. So if I was listening to a review for a product I was interested in buying, and then I don't see that correction, that may have skewed my opinion on this product now. I think a larger company like a Corsair could easily withstand a bad review standing on the foundation of falsified data, which leads to some poor PR. I think they'd be fine. But when you take into account a smaller company that is kind of, make or break on these larger influencers, propping them up and talking about their product, that's where things can be a little dicey. Gamers Nexus brings up an example of this exact thing with a company called Billet Labs. Billet Labs sent a prototype, so it wasn't even in development, or rather not available for consumers. They sent this prototype of a water block to cool GPUs. Linus had attached this water block to the wrong GPU, which led to poor performance, which partially led to a poor review. And even though LTT stated on multiple occasions that they would return said prototype product, they ended up selling it at an auction at LTX. Gamers Nexus would also provide a possible reason behind all these missteps that had been stacking up on top of each other over the past year for LTT, and that is their staff being overworked. He used footage from LTT's own channel of their employees being interviewed on camera, with pretty much all of them saying, "Damn, I wish I had more time to actually work on videos."
Would be nice if the pace was lessened a little bit, have time to like debrief or look in the rearview mirror at how things went.
I don't love that we have to release so many videos. I don't know what our current count is weekly, but I know it's very high.
They had these crazy deadlines that the team clearly couldn't meet. They were being overworked. And the worst part is that these deadlines were just completely self-imposed. Just hours after the video dropped, Linus would take to his forum to post a rebuttal, I guess. Listen, I like Linus. I don't think anytime he's ever messed up, this time included like overworking his employees, I don't think it's ever done with malice. I think it's more just, he's chasing this business, trying to grow this business, and things slip away from him sometimes. Not saying that's an excuse, but like I said, I don't think anything he's done is with malice, but goddamn, this post sucked. It's egotistical, defensive, emotional, reactive. It's almost like he wrote this just hours after the video dropped. Oh wait, he did do that. How much do you want to bet that he didn't actually watch the video and only read the comments too? And I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but some highlights from this forum post is him saying that he didn't actually sell the Billet Labs prototype like Gamer Nexus had accused him of. They had auctioned it and have already reached a settlement with Billet Labs, which for starters is just a game of semantics. That doesn't mean anything. Auction, sell, it's the same thing effectively. And two, Billet Labs came out to Gamers Nexus and was like, nah, we didn't settle anything. I don't know what he's talking about. He goes on to say, regardless of the performance, the water block was completely overpriced and it wouldn't have changed his opinion, even if it was best in class. Fair enough, maybe it wouldn't have changed your opinion on the product, which was overpriced, I'll agree with him there. But I do think that if you're a potential buyer of this product and this is something you might have been interested in, but then you see the actual performance of it and you're like, well, now it's definitely not worth the money. Like, that's not up for you to decide, that's up for the consumer to decide. It can't just be based on your opinion only. It could not only easily change the opinion of a customer and the product itself, but also the customer and the brand as a whole. Lastly, he placed the victim card at the end, which is really not the time or place. And believe me, I made an entire YouTube video on how to make the perfect apology, which nobody watched. Which I don't know if you should either, because I may or may have not done blackface in it. I'm actually not sure. I don't know if it counts or not. Hey brother, I'm sorry. I ran over your dog with my hoopty. But subscribe to my channel if you want to fight racism. Half of every subscription will be donated to Black Guys Matter. Over the course of the next day, Linus would get quite a bit of backlash over his forum post that came off as arrogant and deflective. So now that we're 2 days out from the Gamer Nexus video dropping, we get our first appearance from the new LTT CEO, Taryn Tong, to make a formal apology.
I'm speaking today because of the recent community outcry demanding change. I'm here because I agree with the community.
Side note, I do feel bad for Big TT. I mean, this was like his introduction to the fan base, to the community, whatever you want to call it. So he did kind of have to explain a little bit about who he is even, but it wasn't the time or place. It really came off tone deaf for what is effectively an apology video.
My history building gaming PCs goes even further back.
He also had jokes clearly written into his script, with acting skills aside, was a really poor choice on the writing team.
I think Luke put it best at the roast a few years ago when he said,
"Why the f are you here?"
But it was not only the CEO that issued a statement on the matter. It seemed like they got the entire top brass of the company to break this video into sections and give their opinion on it as well. We heard from Yvonne, Gary, James, Ed, Nick, Colton, Luke, and Linus, which his chapter title was "A Wild Linus Appears." Sick Pokemon joke in your metadata that at best would have gotten a slight titter. Good job, team. Nailed it. Essentially, they would state that they would stop uploads for a week and reevaluate their upload schedule. Clearly, they had bitten off more than they can chew. This was way too long with way too many people on camera. I think, you know, having 7 people like apologize is insane. Just have like one person that gives a definitive statement. This is what we did wrong. This is how we're going to correct it, instead of 30 people essentially all hitting the same talking point. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that this was way too performative. People were not taking this seriously, particularly James and Nick as well.
There have been times when an internal video review caught an incorrect graph, resulting in new versions of the graph being created, only for those new graphs to not be put in the video. Ah!
Hold on. I'm mostly on the product side. LTTstore.com. What? Somebody had to say it.
This whole thing seemed like a corporate mess. It was almost as if Walmart had a YouTube channel and had to make an apology. The first 18 minutes we hear from the entire crew minus Linus, and they all essentially say that they are going to do better moving forward, and you can go to the forum if you have any input. You could have cut this 18 minutes down into like a minute 30 easily. The main event is Linus, who should have been the only one on camera, but I digress. He apologizes for his emotional response on the forum.
I was the one at the head of the company for each and every mistake that our community has rightly brought to our attention. And once again, I made things worse by allowing myself to respond emotionally.
He seemed aware of how he came off and was genuinely apologetic. I think it's very difficult to run a company that is evaluated at $100 million with 100 employees. I think inherently when a company grows too large, it just becomes too corporate, and it kind of tends to lose its soul, or it loses sight of its mission statement. Again, I don't think anything Linus or his channel did was malicious. I think it was born out of incompetence, because running a company at that scale is very difficult, hence the new CEO. I'm still rooting for them though. I hope they manage to turn things around. But as far as an apology goes, light 3 out of 10. Quick little addendum to this video. There was another piece to this puzzle that I'm deciding to leave out, actually. There was this former employee of Linus Tech Tips. Her name was Madison something. And the same day that they dropped their apology video, she did a Twitter thread detailing her experiences, or very, very negative experiences working for LTT. I didn't read the thread when I was making this video. I read an article that was summarizing her tweets, and the way they had summarized it, it made it seem like a lot of hearsay, a lot of unsubstantiated claims. So I couldn't really have an opinion on it. So I was just going to leave a little piece in saying like, hey, I acknowledge it, but I can't really speak on it. So I'm not really going to give an opinion. But after I made this video, I went on to the subreddit of Linus and saw a lot of people talking about it. So I was like, let me read this thing in full. I read the thread in full, and honestly, I have quite a bit to say about it, I think. So yeah, that's going to be a separate video. I don't want to make this like, I don't want to make this one like 20 minutes long.